It took me 37 years to figure out how to make money. And the secret wasn't hustle, connections, or even talent. It was a question. I learned to ask a better question. Not bless what I'm doing, but God, what do you want me to do? This is the story of how that question changed my life and helped me build and sell 2 businesses, give away a ton of money, and buy back my time. And the long subtitle to the autobiography I'll never write. The story of how an ordinary guy with no elite skills, with a pointless MFA, and major blind spots stumbled into getting rich. We're not talking about private jet rich here, but rich enough that I probably never have to take a job I don't want. Rich enough to buy time with my kids, rich enough to give away money, which, by the way, is a life I didn't know was possible for a guy like me. I don't share this story to brag. The opposite, really. There are much wealthier, smarter, holier people than me. If anything, my story proves that if I can do it, a generalist with a liberal arts degree and 0 financial education, then there is real hope for you too. Cut to the opening scene. I grew up in a tract home in a sleepy beach town in California. 2 brothers and a lot of love and support in the house. We learned about being generous, about tithing, about frugality, all fundamental and good. But I missed the money 101, how to earn it. And I missed money 201, how to multiply it. And of course, I missed money 301, how to invest it. So basically, I started out knowing next to nothing about how money works, which is funny since my dad was an economist. Maybe he taught me, but I was too busy doing what I wanted to do. Our family shopped at Pick and Save. This is an 80s version of the dollar store. We drove a Peugeot or whatever had the highest reliability rating regardless of what it looked like. We didn't order soda at restaurants because it doubled the price of the meal. We weren't poor, but since there was a lot of wealth around us, it was clear we weren't one of them, if that makes sense. This was Southern California, where people had boats and ski houses and backyards over the ocean. We didn't have any of those things, but we borrowed them. My brother and I, in fact, got married in our parents' friends' backyards. That was the deal. We used other people's boats. We stayed in other people's ski cabins. We weren't grifters. They were just generous people. I remember going to a buddy's house in Montecito in junior high, and this guy had a tennis court in his front yard, of course. We went down to the court to hit some balls, and someone literally brought us drinks while we played. I was like, was that a servant? It definitely wasn't his mom. I remember letting him win. I don't know why. It just felt appropriate. Like that was how the world worked. When I had dinner at a high school girlfriend's house for the first time, I had no idea what all the extra utensils were for. But here's the strange part. I never asked the question. I never asked myself why these families had so much more money than us. It didn't occur to me. It was just life. When you're young, you don't even know what questions to ask. You just assume you're like your parents and that's who you'll be. But before we go further, let me say this. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're supposed to do it. It may not be your true calling. That's what I had to realize. So after college and grad school, 7 more full years of not learning anything about money, I moved to New York City. Pretty quickly, I landed a Broadway show, actually. My first real taste of professional success. I was making $2,000 a week or so, living in a $2,000 a month apartment on Bleecker Street. The shower was in the kitchen and the bathroom was down the hall, but man, I felt like I had made it. But then I looked around. The older actors, 10, 15 years ahead of me, these guys weren't wealthy at all. Many of them were struggling just to get by. And it hit me. This career has no financial future. These shows always close. And if you're on a TV show, those get canceled. Actors are perpetually out of work. That's the job. It's basically a lifelong job hunt. And almost no one makes meaningful money, not consistently. And something in me whispered, this is a dead end. So I moved to LA. Whoo! It's kind of hilarious in hindsight because I left one impossible career and walked straight into a worse one. In Hollywood, the competition is 10 times that of Broadway, and selling your soul is often the price of admission. But the epiphany didn't come in one clean moment. It came in waves over like a decade. 10 years of pivots, confusion, rejection, and false starts. I had built this identity, my identity, around something God had never asked me to do. I was praying for him to bless my path, but I never asked if I was even on his path. I didn't say, God, what do you want me to pursue? I said, God, here's what I'm doing. Please bless it. That's a good way to burn a decade. Like Jonah in the Bible, I was doing my thing until God pulled the rug out. My marriage fell apart. My identity collapsed. And I had a choice. Go into the darkness or get humble. Was I going to keep trying to do it my way, or would I finally allow God to lead me the way he wanted me to go? Was I okay letting him reshape my identity, or did I still want to write my own story? See, if you try and live your own story, be the captain of your destiny, you're going to end up living a small life. And thankfully, not because I was strong or I knew it was best, I was actually broken. And God filled that space. When I was weak, he was strong. At age 37 years old, I finally let go of what I thought I was supposed to be doing. I had tried all of the things: acting, writing, directing, producing, music, photography, all the cliches for a creative kid with a bit of talent. In college, a mentor had told me that the world needed people in the arts who had a heart for ministry. That stuck with me. But what he failed to mention was that it's nearly impossible to raise a family in those fields, especially in LA and New York, where everything's expensive and competition is insane. The other day, I asked my 5-year-old son, what's your favorite sport? Basketball, baseball, football, or soccer? These are the sports he's played. He thought for a second and he said, wiffle ball. And then he paused and he said, Dad, what's wiffle ball? That was me. I was living a life I thought I wanted to live, but I didn't even know what game I was playing. See, no one told me the Hollywood game isn't winnable. I wasn't failing. I was just wandering. You can find success even when you're outside of God's assignment. That's what I discovered. And those little successes, they keep you stuck. It never once occurred to me that maybe I should ask God. I saw open doors and I walked through them. But the promise of provision was not through those doors. Practically speaking, from a business standpoint, I can understand it now. But back then, I didn't even realize Hollywood was a business and that I was the one choosing to be in that business. So I finally realized that I needed to step back and ask God, not bless what I'm trying to do, but where do you want me to go? And it took a full decade, dude. But I finally heard him, and I heard him say, provide for your family. I've talked a lot about my conditioning from growing up in a Christian home. We didn't focus on money other than being frugal. I didn't remember a single conversation about how to earn money, how to multiply money, about taxes or investing or inheritance. And this is the thing about deep conditioning from childhood. It's under the hood. Most of the time, it takes a car wreck to motivate a rebuild. Jonah needed God to literally send him a big fish to turn him around, to rewire his brain. You have permission today to borrow my trauma, call it your own, and ask God the question, is the path I'm taking from you, or was this just my idea? This is the point in the story where the confused young man starts to see through the veil of assumptions of conditioning, especially around money. God was essentially telling me it was okay to go make money, but he framed it in a way I could hear, right? Provide for your family, he said. Focus on that. And that was enough to activate something in me. I changed my habits. I started devouring content about how to make money. Books and podcasts and YouTube. I filled every free moment with education. I was 37 and just getting started. It wasn't a time to mess around. I'm embarrassed to admit that it hadn't occurred to me before. I had always worked hard. I wasn't a slacker. I wasn't a grifter. I just wasn't walking in my assignment. I was lured in by the talents I thought God had given me for the arts. I mean, he did give them to me, but I was living my vision. And God had something different for me. He had something more. As my eyes opened, I thought back to those Montecito tennis courts and I realized Those families were lawyers, financial planners, business owners. They weren't actors or creatives. And I started to notice opportunities. What if instead of trying to be a Hollywood filmmaker, I did video for small businesses? And once that started working, what if I wasn't the only one making the videos? What if I hired a team? What if I had an office? What if I built a real business with a scalable sales process? I only know this looking back, but those opportunities were always there. I just wasn't looking. I didn't know how to look. This is when I realized that I was always an entrepreneur. But as an actor and filmmaker, I was the product, see? And that's hard to sell. There's only one of me, and I was average. But once the product was outside of me, and sometimes not even created or delivered by me, I saw the gateway to freedom. My video business, Butter, was going pretty well. I was good at it. I was good at selling. I built a small team to start scaling, but I didn't stop looking. This was my Truman Show moment when I realized I was Jim Carrey living in a simulation. And I saw things for what they were. I noticed something back then. I was starting to buy, in my personal life, I was starting to buy more and more things online. This was when e-commerce was just getting started. Most people were still hesitant to buy online, but I noticed my own habits. It was just easier than driving to Target, especially in LA. So I tested an e-commerce product. I found a fake leather iPhone case from China for dirt cheap. It looked better than anything I saw online. So I took $1,000 from Butter's profit and I bought 1,000 units. That's it. I didn't design them. I didn't brand them. I really knew nothing. I just took the chance. I put them on Amazon at a competitive price and they sold. All 1,000 units. I was hooked. This was even better than video. Client services are great businesses, but they are complicated. Scaling means more people, more clients, more headaches. E-commerce back then was the Wild West. It felt like jumping into a river. If you were in the river, all you had to do was stay afloat and not get swept away. So I launched a brand. No joke. I was literally on the toilet when I got the idea for benevolence. The big idea for the brand was gifts that give back. Every product connected to a cause my wife and I cared about. Our first product was a water drop necklace. Each purchase funded clean water projects in Kenya, and it sold. I still remember the first few sales. They felt like magic. A stranger bought a necklace my wife and I designed, had manufactured, photographed on my wife, and listed. A few months later, we funded our first water system in Kenya. We flew there. We documented the impact, made a killer video. Remember, I still had a video company. And it all started to come together. But here's what I didn't do. I didn't hire an expensive team. I didn't rent a fancy office. I didn't take funding. I didn't chase social media. I didn't overproduce content. I just stuck to what was working. E-commerce products with margin. I could buy them, advertise them, and sell them for more than they cost. And I did that for 7 years, obsessively. I followed the gurus. I went to e-commerce conferences. I joined masterminds. I asked a ton of questions. I tested every strategy and used my Hollywood skills for marketing and creative. And I built a remote team around the world. No office, no fluff, lean and mean, and we grew fast. After 1 year, we hit $1 million in revenue, and then we grew about 100% per year for 7 years straight. That adds up quick. I kept my personal expenses low. No new car, no big house, because I had a money printing machine, my business. And if you've got a machine that reliably turns $1 into $2, your only job is to feed it as many $1 bills as you can. During COVID, I took out $2 million in ultra low interest because the government was printing money, and I used it to launch new products and a second brand in the home goods space. So now I had a video production company that was doing pretty well, and 2 e-commerce brands. At the peak, I had about 25 employees, a small office in Calabasas, and everything was profitable and growing. And then we were featured by Oprah on her 100 favorite things list. This wasn't a fancy marketing scheme that I made up. We didn't pay for it. She just picked us because the product was beautiful, priced well, and tied to a charitable cause. My friend Candace Cameron Bure, who I knew from Hollywood, partnered with us on a product line and featured us on The View. We got really good at designing, launching, and scaling products. And then the phone started ringing. Would you be interested in selling your brands? I said no for 2 years. We were growing too fast. It just didn't make sense until it did. I hired a team to take us to market. We packaged both brands together, built a slick pitch deck outlining future growth. And when we went to market, we got 11 offers. It took 6 months to do the deal, but it closed. And one of the best parts of this whole thing was giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars to ministries and charities, clean water, anti-trafficking, and now funding some Christian education ministries that my wife and I really believe in. And that is how I went from being an average middle-class son of an economist to a rich snob living in a mansion with famous people. I'm kidding. I'm not that snobby, and my house is definitely not a mansion. Looking back, there were really 3 turning points. Number 1, I surrendered my plan and asked God for direction. Number 2, I started learning how money actually works. And number 3, I built something that served others instead of trying to do the thing I wanted to do. That's it. That's the story. A few years ago, I read a book called The Second Mountain. The story I just told was my first mountain. This podcast, it's part of my second mountain. This is where I help raise up the next generation of faithful kingdom builders, entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs climbing their first mountain. If you want to go deeper or work directly with me, you can click on the link below or head to judsonmorgan.com. And there's a free PDF down there too, 30 wealth basics nobody teaches in school. Hey, thanks for listening to my story. I hope some of it resonated with you. Remember, seek first the kingdom of God, not your desires, your plans, your passions, and then all the rest will be added to you. That's the pod.